and here nothing to choose, whether you want to translate the text in full HTML or filtered HTML or plain text. Leave these things as default. And source language English, Japanese and Korean, leave all these things as default for now. And let's go to structure now and choose the content type, and let's put this on basic page. Click edit. Okay, before that I want to show you one thing. Click add content and choose basic page, and you can see no languages are enabled here. So what you have to do is go to structure, content type, basic page, click edit, and here you get a new option under publish, that is the language multilingual support. So what you have to do is not enable but enabled with translation. And then if you go to multilingual settings, you can't see anything here, for it's all disabled. So what you have to do is click save content type and click edit again, and scroll down, click multilingual settings again, and this time you can see that you can enable these sections. So I recommend you to use this section clicked require language, do not allow neutral language. So what does it mean is, if you create a content, let's create a new content here now. So sorry, let's add a content, click basic page, and now you can see an option for creating language English, Japanese, Korean, and at the top you can see language neutral. So what happens is that if you create a language, if you create and save a language in neutral mode, that page will be available in all other languages, for example Korean, English and Japanese. So for example, let's say test, and let's save this in neutral mode and save this as a main menu, and click save, and you can now see that the page has created here. And also you can see language undefined, that means this is a neutral language, and it will be showing up here. And that's the reason I told here just before on the configuration settings how to hide the language. So even if you check this page in Korean, kr/node1, that page is available, but still the menu at the top is same. So if you create, and also you can't translate this as a separate page, it's an individual page which is available in all the sites. This is the fault, or this is the problem of saving a node in the normal, or neutral mode. So don't keep it as that. So let's go back here, check require language, don't allow any neutral language, then click save content type. And now let's click manage fields and drag up the language field so that it's easy for you to configure the language just after the title field. Then click manage display. You don't want to display the language field, so let's hide that. Click save and click here and go to configuration and multilingual settings and node option, click hide content translation links, click save, and when you go back to site here again, click on test, and you can see now there is no language link at the bottom. So click edit and choose, now it's in English because no more language is available as neutral. We can't save the page as neutral because we have disabled that feature. Now let's save this file in English and click save, and now you can see a new tab has been generated or created there, which is translate, and click on that, and now you can translate this page into Japanese or Korean, or you can use an existing node in Japanese and Korean so that you don't need to create a new one. Now let's create our first content. Click basic page and type in test page in English. And for the body field we type in same test page in English. And menu settings, let's provide a menu and type this as English, and for the URL path let's say test and click save. Now our first page has been created in English, and also we we get a new tab, translate, for translating this node or page in another language. So click on this translate tab, and here you get option to add translation for Japanese or Korean, or you can specify if there is a language node already in the site and just type in the node name of that here. And but for now we just going to add a translation for Japanese, and let's say the title of this page is test page in Japanese, and here also test page in Japanese. And for the menu we need a menu, but the menu is in Japanese. And for the URL, same URL path, that is test, and click save. And now we need to add the Korean translation, so click translate again, and this time the test page in Korean, test page in Korean. And for the menu we need a menu, and that is Korean. And for the URL path we type test, and now click save. Now we have created pages in English, in Japanese and Korean. But to switch between these languages, every time we may have to type JA or KR, or for English like this, it's little difficult to type in, or for the users it won't be easy to do that shifting by typing in the URL. So what we do now? For that purpose, the internationalization module has created a block to switch the languages between the languages in the site. So for that, let's go to the structure, blocks, and go to the bottom, and you can see a language switcher block has been created by the internationalization module. So let's put this module or enable this module in the sidebar second in Bartik theme, save block. And now when we go back to our home page, you can see a new block has been created, and now you can shift the language very easily through this block: English, Japanese and Korean. And also you can see here in the menu section, now it's in Korean, so the menu only Korean is visible, and when we move to Japanese, only Japanese is visible, and when in English, only English is visible. So you maybe got the idea that if you create a page in a certain language, a particular language, that menu will be available only in that language, and it will be displayed only in that language. So this is very helpful for a multilingual site to show a content or a menu in only one page. So that's how the content work. Now let's go to blocks multilingual settings. For that, let's go to structure and blocks. Let's create a new block, say test block, and for title also we type in test block English, and block body, let's say test block, and let's save this in filtered HTML and click sidebar second. And here you get option to display this page in particular language. If you want to display this only in English, it will check this and it will be displayed only in English. Or if you want to display this in all language, either choose all or leave this alone, disable, so that it will be displayed in all the language. Or if you want to make this block as translatable, I mean, when I say this translatable, the translatable of this block means the title field and the body field will be translatable. But to make the body field translatable, you have to choose the translatable text format filtered, full and plain, all three. But first we have to choose only plain text. So if you choose only plain text and you save this block in filtered HTML, this block won't be translatable. You can see that a small warning has showing the string blocks block to body of text group block is not allowed for translation because of its text format. That means we have to enable filtered HTML too. So click save configuration here, and then when we go back here and click configure text block and click save and translate, now there is no problem and we can translate our text block. So you understand now, if you want to translate a body field which is created in filtered HTML or full HTML, you have to enable that text format from the multilingual settings under strings tab and then click save configuration, so that even if you create the block in full HTML or filtered HTML or just plain text format, you can get the translation option for these block settings. So now let's go to the home page and see this page is in English. The block has been just created and this page available only in English. So if you go to Japanese, it's available in English same, but it's available in Japanese page too. But we don't want this page in Japanese because this is only for English users. So what we do now, so let's go to the English page and configure and set this language and show this block for these languages. So show this block for this language means it will be available only in English. So now if you go to Japanese, you can't see that block, and when you go to Korean, you can't see that block because that language will be available only in English. Let's go back to configure and language. Let's take off that and make this block translatable. Click save and translate, and let's translate in Japanese. So now you can translate the title and body field of the block. So let's say test block in Japanese. Click save translation, and now when you go back to Japanese, the block is in Japanese, and when you go back to Korean, still it's Korean because we haven't given a translation for the Korean. So let's add some Korean, say test block in Korean. Now you can see that block is in Korean language, and in Japanese it's in Japanese, and in English it's in English. So it is available in all the languages but different content. This is very helpful when you create a multilingual block or multilingual site, so that you don't need to create, like say you have 10 languages for one site, like English, Korean, Japanese, French, and lots of languages, and for each language you don't need to create each block. Rather, you just make this block as translatable so that you can translate the title field and the body field, and even if you have put some images or whatever, can be translated into the other language individually, rather than creating lots and lots of blocks here in this section. So this is really helpful when you create a multilingual settings, and when you want to create some, for example, you want to create a featured slider or kind of things, you don't need to create lots of blocks. And the same thing happens for the menu also. You don't need to create lots of menus if you want to create separate, individual pages for each site. So because of this translation and the language specific display settings. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is how to change the site name in different languages. So currently we are in English and the site name is multilingual site, and when we go back to Japanese it's still same multilingual site, and when we go back to Korean and it's still same multilingual site. So how do we change the site language in each language? For that, let's go back to configurations, in site information, and here you can see an option to choose the language for each site name. So now it's in English. So for Japanese, let's say site multilingual site Japanese and click save configurations, and for Korean let's say multilingual site Korean for Korean site and click save configurations. And now when we go back to the home page, we are in English page and it says multilingual site, and when we go back to Japanese page, now says multilingual site Japanese, and when we are in Korean it says multilingual site Korean. So if you want to translate more variables like this, go to configurations, multilingual settings. Under variables you can choose the variables you want to be translated in each language. If you want to choose site language or each section, choose from here and go to the site configurations and translate into that particular language. I hope you understand now the multilingual site settings and the configurations settings. If you have more doubts or kinds of problems while you are setting your site, please comment and I will try to answer or create more videos about this topic. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial.